Okay, today we're going to practice finding the slope between 2 points. So we've done it on a graph, but we're going to practice it on a graph, but also just given 2 points. It's pretty easy. Remember that on a graph, the slope is rise over run. The rise is the vertical change, the run is the horizontal change. So I suggest, more than suggest, I want you to draw in your rise and your run between 2 points. Sometimes you have to pick the 2 points, sometimes it's given to you. Those two are given, but I could have used this point as well. And then name it. Here, my rise, or my vertical change, was 1, but I was going downhill, so it was a -1. And my run, I went over 1, 2, 3, so my run was, 3. So the slope of this line is a -1/3. So, second example, we're going to choose our 2 points, and we have many points, so there's 2 given to us, but we could have used this one as well. So as long as you have 2 points, and you're going to draw in your vertical change and your horizontal change. Biggest mistake that I see is people having like random lines like that, but remember you're going straight up, straight over. And then you're going to count. So my rise, my vertical change, I went up 1, 2, 3. And my horizontal change, I went over 1. So my rise was 3, my run was 1, so it is a +3. Now a couple things I want to tell you. I want to remind you that if it is going downhill like this line, your slope is always going to be negative. If it is going uphill like the second example, it is going to be positive. I highly suggest you write that on your notes. Okay, what if though we're not actually given a graph with the 2 points plotted? What if we just are given the 2 points? Then we have to use something called the slope formula. Remember what we know about slope. It's the change in y values over the change in x values. So all you're really doing, if you're given 2 points, is to find the change in the y and put it over the change in the x and reduce. The slope formula is a little fancy, but it's still doing the same thing. It's saying you're going to subtract or find the change in your y's and the change in the x's. These little sub numbers down here, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, they just tell us that this is the second y, the second x, the first y, and the first x. So if you're using the slope formula, what I suggest you do is start by naming your x's and your y's. So here is an x and a y. Remember the x is always the first one, x and y. This is my first point, this is my second point, because then after that you're just taking the number and slamming it into the slope formula. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. My y sub 2 is 13, so I'm going to put a 13 minus y sub 1, which is 9, over x sub 2, which is 10, minus x sub 1, which is 3. 13 minus 9 is 4. 10 minus 3 is 6. So my slope is 4, 6. So I'm going up 4 for every 6 x's. But we can reduce that to 2/3. For my second example here are my x's and y's. So again, if you're using that slope formula, I suggest you x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So the most common mistake that people make with the slope formula is reversing the order. If you use this one first, -10 minus 5, you need to use this x first as well. So -5 minus a -2. So -10 minus 5, remember keep change, change. That gives us a negative 15. Feel free to use a calculator if you want. And then negative 5 minus a negative 2, change, gets us to negative 3. Negative 15 over negative 3 can be reduced to a positive 5. So my slope is 5. Again, what that tells us is that the rise would be 5, so I'd be going up 5 and over 1.